welcome to our part 2 podcast of our national team process selection. So last week we talked about, or actually 2 weeks ago, we talked about how Canada selects their national team or the process on how we do that, and if this process is good and it works, and if we should stick with it or if we should switch to something else. And this week, we're going to talk about how the rest of the world does their selection process, because I don't think many of them do it like Canada does.
That's right. And we took a week off, as Kelly mentioned, and I'm going to use that as my excuse for forgetting every relevant point that we made before. And you'd think that I would have had time to research what we're going to try to say today, but no, not really.
It was hard. It was really hard to try and find information on what's going on in the world, too.
No, me too. It's going to be pretty much today, like purely anecdotal, what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying. It'll be going on something that I can't look up and prove to you. So I feel like Rudy Giuliani. I'm just going to be throwing out these accusations and we'll
With
see
no
where they go.
factual basis
With no,
whatsoever.
we'll see if the
It's
hair dye starts running down my cheek.
Yeah, we'll do the thing of like, we're just going to say things and it's up to you to fact check it and
That's right. That'll be our
take it or
disclaimer.
leave it. Yeah.
Oh, and hey, Kelly, you said for the mailbag, there's
Yes. Okay,
or
so
something to clear up, right? Go ahead.
I have one topic or another point to bring up that we did not mention in the last episode, but I think we should have, because it's an important one. So for the national team selection process, right? Like for the nationals, we're picking the team that's going to represent Canada at the Worlds or on the world stage. Except how we do it now for nationals is that in order to get to nationals, you have to win your province. And in order to win your province, you have to live in that province. So the teams that are winning nationals are a Canadian team from a specific province.
Right.
So in a way, and because the gap between the super elite and the not so elite people is getting larger and larger, it's forcing those elite players to like live in specific places altogether. When in reality, you're looking for a Canadian team. So technically, a team should be able to form regardless to where everyone lives in the province, right? Because
Ooh,
people may
interesting.
have limitations due to, family members, or, they all have their own personal lives. And maybe for some reason, like if you take, for instance, let's just take Ontario and Quebec, for example, right? People that live near Ottawa, like Ottawa, Gatineau, or even like Ottawa, Montreal, Toronto, like you can easily like split a team in two or have people live in different provinces. But because of the rules as they are now, everyone, or you're allowed one person who is not allowed to live in the province. So that's kind of
Hmm.
like restraining on the current competitive teams. And if they want to switch teams, they have to like move their entire family to go live in a specific province.
It's
So
interesting.
food for
And
thought.
yeah, and I'm not going to indulge because I know that I'm still living by the tradition of province versus province, and I don't know. I'm not into it, but it's a
Mhm.
very good point because what I think we've noticed, and let's just talk the provincial level for a moment, is remember when we had to fight to represent the Montreal region, and now
Mhm.
regions don't mean anything in Quebec anyway. It's
And I'm sure in a lot of provinces, it's just a sign up and
That's
go
right. It's
kind of thing.
find three other people from anywhere in your province. We don't care where they're from. It's going to be hard for you to practice, but if we think of our friend and ladder teammate who just aged out of juniors a couple of years ago, her team when she aged out was from all corners of Quebec. They could not have been more far apart, and so maybe that's what comes at the national level in the future, where we've got people from all corners of Canada on one team.
Mhm.
But I don't want to think about it. I still don't like it.
Yeah, well, that's like, I mean, we've talked about it in that episode. I just wanted to bring the point up because I kind of thought about it the other day, and I was like, oh, this is like an important point that we didn't mention.
I had one other thought I want to throw out about Canada too, where I'm going to criticize yet again. It's what I do
Okay.
well, very easy for me to do from here. But we were mentioning, or we talked about how Canada has its priorities, I guess, and how I guess the feeling that we left with is that there might be some changes down the road because it seems like Canada's kind of not satisfied with I don't know, that we didn't do well in the last Olympics.
Yeah, the last Olympics was a real shocker.
Yeah, and I was
Hey, at
thinking
least we won mixed doubles though, so
that's right. That's
it's
where the future
something.
lies. But no, what I was thinking of with Canada at the Olympic, or I what I tried to say last time was that what I'm more concerned about is not really whether Canada wins or not. It's about the state of clubs and how and the state of people playing the sport.
Mhm.
And that I think is a much bigger area of crisis in, if you want to use that word, in Canada. And it's certainly going to continue to be with everybody closed down for the pandemic. But if we're going to talk about winning for a moment, I have
Mhm.
one suggestion for Curling Canada. And it's going to kind of transition into what we're doing internationally today. But I think we can all agree handpicking people to be on a team never works.
True. Well, I was gonna bring so it's good that you brought up the Olympics or last year's Olympics because that kind of segues into what a point I wanted to talk about.
Uh-huh.
How certain like some countries do it or have done it in the past of like as you said, hand selecting an entire team or even just people, and they'll select someone with a lot of experience, high skill level, but as you know, in curling, team dynamics plays a huge part in how successful a team is. And just because a person is has experience and is successful does not mean that that's going to translate into a successful team once you plug them in.
That's right. And
Can we agree on
normally,
that?
oh, of course, I do fully.
And we
We
saw
don't agree
it.
on much.
And I'm not saying that the Homan's record at the Olympics was solely because of this.
I'm
But
laughing
I'm
because
pretty
it's you read my mind. You knew what I was
yeah.
going to get into.
I'm pretty sure, it did play a part of it, so
Yes, and what we're talking about is how Canada doesn't traditionally handpick anybody, but Rachel Homan won the Olympic trials, and and Curling Canada handpicked her alternate, being Cheryl Bernard, and they also handpicked the coach,
mhm.
Renee Sonnenberg. And
I
I'm
think the coach has a bigger impact than the 5th player. But
Perhaps. I
again, I
mean,
don't
yeah, and full disclosure, I think extremely highly of Cheryl Bernard. We all do. Renee Sonnenberg, I don't know much about her except she's got a very good curling CV out in Alberta. So clearly, well qualified people. However,
mm,
and I'm not saying that this is the reason that Homan did not do well. I mean, I think they would be the first people to tell you that. However, if I worked for Curling Canada, which I clearly do not, and I were hell bent on winning gold, here's my suggestion: you stay the hell out of Rachel's way. Do
yeah,
not
and that's how
do anything to her team. Leave them be. Get them caught. Ask like, can I get you a coffee? Can I get you that? Like, that's what you should be
"Can I
doing.
get you a Pinty's chicken wing?"
Exactly.
No, it's true. It's like and that's how Canada's done it in the past. Like everything was done organically, right? Whoever won, and that was it. Like, best of luck. Here's your jacket. Now go win us the medal.
That's right. And just let us know what we can do to help you.
Mhm.
Not this, we're going to arrange for this, we're going to do this for you. And
Mhm.
again, it's not an excuse, but I'd love to know who was in charge of this and what were they thinking. I think it's totally out of touch with the way certainly a team like Rachel Homan operates.
Well, you know what? Maybe a certain person who made this decision spent some time in Scotland because during my research
Now
for
that's a good
this
segue.
topic, I don't know if you remember, goes way back in 2013. Team Scotland had Murdoch and Brewster on the team, or like
Hmm.
it was Team Brewster that won the spot to go to the men's worlds. And whoever in Scotland decided that Murdoch, is a very successful curler. He's won a lot of
Yeah, well decorated.
well decorated. So they kind of brought him in as the skip. So now it's a 5-man team. And what they did is that they rotated all the players with Murdoch at skip the whole time. And they did not win gold. This was the year that Brad Jacobs went. But they did win the bronze medal. And it was kind of controversial because like this was Brewster's team and they just kind of brought in Murdoch
Mm,
to basically take his place as skip.
very interesting. And I hate it. I hate the
Yeah.
thought of like you've got a team playing together. It seems like it works on
Mhm.
paper, but I think really the more you understand about curling, the more you understand that it's not a question of taking four really good talents and putting them together, or five in this case.
Yeah, and especially too, like the state of the men's worlds back in the so this is back in 2013. So like who are the dominant countries? Canada, Sweden,
Sweden,
Scotland,
I would
and like
think so.
Switzerland kind of
Switzerland,
in
maybe.
there. Yeah, and then you get the odd one. So I think had they not put Murdoch in there and just left Brewster be, like I'm pretty sure they would have ended up with a bronze medal anyways, if not better or, something close.
It's fair to say. I'm just trying to think of like what's going on in the back of your mind if you get demoted to whether it's to bring in somebody as good as Murdoch, but I'm not
Oh, we know
playing.
there was some drama there. Come on.
Oh, for
You've
sure.
been around in the curling
Oh, for
circuit.
sure.
No one gets demoted without a little drama in the background.
No, it's
Um,
constantly in the back of your head. Let's be honest.
mhm. And just having a difference, like every skip has their own style and their own like vibe. So definitely changes the mojo of the team. Anyways, that was a, a tidbit there. I
Yeah,
totally forgot about that until I found that came up in my research.
that's right.
So
And I can't prove this. Like I said before, this is something I tried to research and couldn't find, but I seem to remember, I think Great Britain at the Olympics, because they're Scotland for the Worlds, they're Great Britain for the Olympics.
but
I
they're
think,
essentially Scotland.
yeah, I think there was one Olympic cycle where they took a bunch of well-known Scottish skips and threw them into one mega team. It might have been on the women's side, I don't
They did
remember,
that with,
and they got clobbered.
yeah, they did that with, Eve Muirhead, when sh like, this was at the beginning of the height of, like, Eve Muirhead's career. I think she either just aged out of juniors or was, like, close to aging out, and they put her on who was skipping with her or, like, 3rd? Kelly Wood?
Oh
Is that
yeah, yeah, that
does
rings a
that
bell.
name ring a bell?
I think so. And I mean, again, we can't prove this, but I think this happened even before Muirhead. Like I'm thinking early 2000s or like
So
the
they
Salt
kind
Lake Olympics. I seem to remember there was some,
Oh, I
or
don't
no,
remember
Salt
that
Lake, Great
far.
Britain won gold. I don't know. I seem to, or
Oh.
Worlds or something.
But basically with
This is
Eve,
going
they
great.
kinda they did a Murdoch thing, like, they just because she wasn't playing with her regular team, they were all, like, juniors, basically, and this was a more, senior, like, women's team, so, like, the women on the team had gone through like, women's worlds before, and they just kinda, like, put Eve in there, and that did not work well either.
Oh, very interesting. So Curling Canada, if you're listening,
Don't do that. I don't know, maybe they learned their lesson last Olympics, and so we'll
I'd
see if
I'd
they'll do
like
it
to
again.
think. And again, I don't really blame anybody, but because really, I don't know.
Mm.
Just to get a little bit philosophical here, the nature of sport is somebody has to lose, and I just don't like
But you don't
everybody.
want it has to be someone else that loses, not you.
I know, but let's face reality. This is something that just in any sport, like New England Patriot fans are starting to realize now. Hey, wait, it's possible to lose games. I've never felt like this before.
Rob, don't go there. Don't go there. I just saw actually so a small tangent. I was talking with a friend the other day because she wanted to know how if Garoppolo was gonna make it to the Super Bowl again this year.
Nope.
And anyways, I googled where the Patriots are at, and I think they have 19. I think it was 19% chance of making the playoffs
Yeah,
this year.
they're not going to make it.
So I think I'm gonna have to.
But there you go. It's a good lesson. All good things in sports come
Mhm.
to an
I
end,
I
and
bet you that if Rachel Homan wins the trials again or, like, next year, I hope that they leave her alone.
I would think
Like,
so.
I think she's like, "Guys, look what happened last time, it didn't work, like, let us do our thing."
And I will say this, and again, this is maybe not the nicest thing to say, but I will anyway. And I don't think any of the people that made that decision for her have been anywhere near competitive curling.
Mm.
I think that the people I mean, I don't know, I can't prove
Some
this,
more, like,
but
regular sports psychologist type people.
I don't know who's sitting around the table in Curling Canada's office making the decision, but I don't think it's say somebody like Jeff Stoughton. Jeff Stoughton is involved with the mixed doubles, but I think he's got his finger on the pulse of what's going on in
Mhm.
competitive play. I don't think they have anybody like that making
I
these
wonder
decisions.
but I wonder for the Olympics if they have, like, people who are part of the Olympic committee involved.
Maybe.
So these are people that aren't necessarily, like, tied to Curling Canada, they're just Team Canada.
I guess. It's just if this can be figured out by the two of us who are not exactly close to the Olympics, then I'd like to think that somebody in that office can tell
Yeah.
what's going on.
So, anyways, for a podcast that's supposed to be about the world, we're talking a lot about Canada.
That's true. Yeah. Let's get out of Canada.
So let's segue to another point here. But I guess what a lot of countries or a lot of like other European countries do is, unlike Canada, they select a national squad. And how they select it will vary from country to country. But basically, they have one national team, which they put all their funding into and train that team. And that's the team that we're going to see often at the Worlds or at the Olympic. And they're also the ones who gets to travel the most. So I guess the most famous team that we can think of is Niklas Edin for Sweden. They also have a national women's team, Hasselborg. So she's always representing at the Europeans and the world. And this is kind of controversial too, because, or at least, so from my point of view, I think that this is not good for Sweden at all.
I agree.
Again, I'm not from Sweden, but I have been there and I've like heard how it is there. And essentially, like curling is not as popular there as it is in Canada, but as far as curling countries go, they're one of the biggest, right? And
Okay.
essentially, having a national team has kind of killed the sport within the country, kind of like what we're scared happen in Canada with like clubs just closing down. And one of the main reasons for this is because it's kind of killed competition altogether, right? Because, yeah, they have like a Super League and they have their national championships, but you can win
And
the
you don't get
Swedish
to go.
national trial and you don't get to go. You just get a nice trophy, and Eden's going to go. And their justification for that is, well, Eden has all the experience. I mean, the guy's been around for what, like 15 years now? He's been to how many Olympics, how many worlds? Like the guy's decorated, he has the experience. And they're like, well, he's our best shot of having a medal, even if they didn't win. Sometimes they don't even play, like Eden doesn't even play in the national championships.
Yeah.
So it kind of sucks because then what's the point? Okay, I'm the best, or quote unquote, the best team in Sweden. And yet this is where it ends for me.
Yeah. I hate it.
Right. So kind of like in Canada now too, what a lot of people are thinking like, well, why should I invest all this time, money, and energy for something that's just going to stop?
That's right. Because Dean has been beaten. I would imagine he can be beaten in Sweden. Granted, not
hmm
very often, but
But also too, they're not. There's no. Yeah,
there's
he
nothing in place
can.
to help the other teams catch up to him.
Yeah. Well, exactly. There is a big gap between him and like the other teams, and not to say he's not beatable, like he can be, but because they're investing all their resources into
Into
one
one team.
person,
Yeah.
everyone else is left to fend for themselves.
Yeah. It's not a fair fight.
Exactly. So I guess it's like, yeah, you want your country to be well represented and have all the medals or have the best chance at it, but
And
you're kind
Sweden
of
is a unique. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, I was just gonna say what happened. Like Eden's, I think this is gonna be his last Olympics. What happens afterwards? Like you need someone else to come and
Well, Sweden's a
take
unique
over.
situation, I think, because even though I hate this model and I think it goes against what curling is about, it's working for them. They do very well every year. And the thing is that even though people are kind of discouraged with the situation there, they're going to be able to find a next elite team that's going to continue to be really good when they throw all the money
Wow.
at them.
Do you know what I found, Rob, during my
Ooh,
research?
what's that?
So I found this article. This was dated back in 2013, and
Okay.
basically Eden is struggling, and this is why I say I don't think he's gonna. I think he's gonna retire after the next Olympics. One, because he has his ongoing like back issues, so like a lot of injury. But they lost their funding. So
Oh,
for the past 12 years, or up until 2016 ish, so the last Olympics, the team was getting 150K a year
wow.
to curl.
That's
Like
pretty good.
that is really good, right? And that's how he got so good and was basically living in Canada because he could do that, right? They had the funds to do it, and they got a lot better than all the other European teams because they're in Canada and they get all the good competition. And this was funding directly from, I guess, like their Olympic, whatever the like Swedish Olympic Committee is.
Hmm.
But they lost that now. So
Oh,
they're struggling. Like basically they're all relying on sponsorships and whatnot, and that's drying up. And so without that money, now they have to be like, well, shit, we have to get part-time jobs or something. So they're really not really sure what the future holds.
part-time jobs for a competitive curling team. Oh my
Can
God.
you imagine? Well, it's like they can't they wouldn't be able to train like
No
they do
more
now.
full-time curler.
I know.
Yeah, quick aside, I miss the days when on TSN they would announce the name of the curler and they would say what their day job was. And
Yeah.
now, of course, it's always full-time curler, or full-time mom and curler, or something like that.
Yeah, they should totally, like, just remove that bit because it doesn't matter anymore, right?
Pretty much. That's why, like,
Yeah.
if I'm watching New Brunswick play Prince Edward Island, then it's relevant. But for, let's be honest, for the rest of them, I know
Mm-mm.
they'll say something like Jennifer Jones is a lawyer, but how many times is she actually in her law office?
I wonder what kinda lawyer is she? Like, is she maybe she's just, like, a corporate lawyer that,
We'll have to look that up.
doesn't do much?
We'll have
Like, she
to.
doesn't go to court
We'll
or
get to that
anything?
next week. We'll find out what
We'll
kind
do
of.
a deep dive there.
That's right.
But it's kinda like, I'm not too sure what the situation was in Norway, but Ulster, like, they were a very dominant team
Okay,
for a
well,
while.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I was going to say I hate the system in Sweden. I think it's very bad for the sport, even though it works very well for them in terms of winning gold. But I support it in Norway. I think that Ulsrud should be unilaterally declared the representative of Norway every year until
I
he's
agree.
80.
Mhm,
As long as he is contractually obligated to keep on showing up in these random pants,
mhm.
I support him no matter what happens in Norway. Just saying.
It's true. I second that. I would support it too. Maybe we just need to find at the same time they need to find like a ulcered mini me, like someone of
The
a
next really charismatic
exactly to
person.
take his place when the time comes for him to retire.
What a character, though. It's like we have to take a moment to just acknowledge that because not only is he very like the world's most interesting curler and really athlete, he goes beyond just the sport, but he's really good.
I assume we have a curling hall of fame or something.
I think so. There should be if there isn't,
If
and
not,
he's
we should research this. But
yes.
I definitely think that him and just separately the pants should
The
be
pants deserve their
nominated.
own section. Yeah.
Exactly, their own section. But no, that team was just yeah, I think they did a lot of good stuff for the sport.
Hmm.
But anyways, so back to, my point about how Sweden yeah, they have a national team and, doesn't matter if you win the national championships, you won't get to go. And we had talked about this before, and I tried to find the exact, like, situation online because this happened quite a few years ago, and this was regarding the Germans women team with Andrea Schopp,
Right.
and I couldn't find it anywhere, but, like, I have a vague memory of this. But basically so Andrea Schopp, she was representing Germany for quite a few years, and then she kinda went off the grid for a bit, and then kinda came back again with a younger team, and,
Right. I think
unfortunately without
yeah.
Monica Wagner.
No, she was still with Monica, right?
Was she still with
Oh
Monica?
yeah, yeah. They've been playing together since I think they were born like hours apart.
Yes! Okay, so I found this on Wikipedia. I was trying to bring this up. So I found this on Wikipedia. They were born so they're from, like, Munich.
Hmm.
They were born in the same hospital 8 hours apart.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
I did know that, but yeah, that is pretty funny.
There was no reference on this, so again, up to you to accept it or not.
But I've heard it
Um,
from Vic Router, so it must be true.
okay. But yeah, but if I remember the situation like, correctly, like, she had won the German title,
Yeah,
and they were getting ready to go to, I don't know, like, Swift Current or wherever
I think I know
to
about this.
play. And then basically Germany was like, "Oh, no, you're not gonna go, it's gonna be this younger team that's gonna go."
Okay, I have to
And then
interrupt. I have to interrupt. So, because
yeah.
I know this story too, but I can tell you why you can't find it in research because I think you heard this from me.
No, but I do remember this happening too.
Okay, but
Well, we
I
have
think
talked about it before.
okay, but I think this is with the Europeans.
Was it the
I
Europeans
think
or the
yes,
world?
because I was there for it, so I remember this. It was really interesting. It was
Okay, well, then you tell the story then.
yeah, because it was not Swift Current, but
Okay.
okay, so I guess the background is that I did go to the European Curling Championships once. I had a connection with one of the players representing a team in the B division. Let's say that because that's a story for a whole other podcast.
Mhm.
But it was a really, really fun experience. It was like
Also
going
wanna
to the
say this
Briar, but even better.
this was the time where you actually met Ulster too, right?
Oh, that's right. Yes,
Yeah, I think
I
you
got
sent
to
a
meet
picture and
Thomas
was mad
Ellsworth.
jealous.
That's
Yeah.
right. He showed up to the banquet dressed with matching pants and like suit jacket that made him look like a cow. And he had had a few drinks by the time I mustered up the courage
In
to go
person,
and
as
say hi
any
to him.
curler will. Yeah.
That's right. He was really interesting, and yeah, we'll leave it at that for now. But anyways, so very, very fun experience. But one of the things is even though I was with a team in the B division, we got to watch all the A division games with Scotland and Sweden and Switzerland and other countries that don't start with S. And one of them was Germany. And I remember hearing at the time that it was really controversial that Andrea Schopp had won the right to represent Germany. And instead, they had sent
Oh, like, is it
Daniela,
Daniela? She's the current one that
the
she's been
current,
around
yeah,
for a while. Jentsch,
okay,
Daniela Jentsch.
Daniela Jentsch. Okay, so
Yeah.
she was there representing Germany at the Europeans. This is in 2014, I think, yeah. And but it was really controversial because Andrea Schopp had won the right to go. And then the German
Mm.
Federation, and I can't find research on this, but I was there, I heard this. The German Federation changed the rules and said, no, no, actually, we're going to send Daniela Jentsch. And so Andrea Schopp sued the German Federation and won her case.
You go, girl.
Yeah, she won her case and she was put into the tournament about halfway through the round robin. So Daniela Jentsch showed up in the Europeans in Switzerland, played a few games, and then was sent home. And Andrea Schopp took over for the rest of the round robin. And it was really weird. I don't think they did well. My favorite part was that they didn't have time to make them jackets. And so they were wearing blank German jackets with duct tape on the back with their name written in Sharpie.
Oh my! How did this not make a
It should have.
bigger
It should have
news?
made
Yeah.
huge news. Like this was a major talking point. And I remember, and I got to meet Andrea Schopp and Monica
Oh
Wagner
my
too. It
god.
was so cool.
That is like they're like curling royalty. I'm
And they were
sorry,
really
but
nice too. They were
oh,
really
I can.
cool, and they've been around so much. I learned a lot. But the thing is that I felt and this is just again me analyzing the situation, but I felt they were pretty upset because even though they won their court case, they knew the German Federation would never call on them again.
Oh, for sure.
And I don't think we've seen them since. And it's too bad because even though they're not the youngest team and they've been around for 30 plus years, they're they're damn good.
Andrea is still around. I've
Good.
seen that she's playing mixed though. I don't
Okay.
think she's gone into mixed doubles, or I think yeah, she has, but she definitely does she does the more mixed stuff now, which I mean is more like mix is not as prestigious as
No, but
women's or
again,
men's, but it's so much
yeah,
fun.
she should be
It's so
phased
much
out
fun.
of competition on her own volition. She should be the one to
Mhm.
choose, I'm not interested in this anymore, not the federation telling her, we're done with you.
Yeah, but you know, like Andrea, like she looks, not that I know her personally, but she seems like the type of person who would just go for it until, she has to use a stabilizer or the stick.
I like it.
And even then, she'll
I'm a fan.
probably be like, yeah.
I'm a fan. Fun fact about Andrea Schopp, the only person I think to win a world championship, I think I have to get the 22 years apart, I
Oh
think.
yeah, like
World
mhm.
champion in 1988 and 2010. I just looked it up.
She's quite the athlete too. I did hear a story once where she was in, Saskatchewan or wherever in the prairies for a tournament, and she would go like on 20-kilometer bike rides
Oh
in
yeah.
between, like their scheduled
Yeah.
games and stuff.
Hey, you know who else is in like really good shape?
Who?
Peo Lindholm.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
he like runs ultra marathons, and he's another guy I met at this European experience. It was really cool, and he had just gotten back from this like 70-kilometer run through the
Oh my
Alps. So
god.
like it's like I can barely breathe walking to my hotel. How can you?
I think he's off coaching in China, I think
Really?
now.
He's not like part
Yeah.
of the whole Adine thing anymore?
Nope, no, it hasn't been for a couple
Oh
years.
my. Ooh, the situation is getting more and more interesting.
I'm just checking right now to make sure that I'm fact checking this. Yeah, so on June 16th, actually, of this year, Pei Lindholm has been named as head coach of the Chinese national curling team. Oh,
Wow.
speaking of China, I was trying to like get my way to China here because this
Okay.
is another way. Another thing I found, so China kind of came on the scene, the curling scene kind of out of nowhere
Mm-hmm.
many years ago with Bingyu Wang.
Right?
Remember her?
Mm-hmm.
Before her, curling was just non-existent in China. Like you never see them. And basically what China was like, oh, we want to get into curling. So they handpick people And they do this again for like a lot of other sports. But they've handpicked a men's team and a women's team, and they kind of developed them. And the men's not so much, but Bing Yu was a very successful
Absolutely.
curler, and their team like did really well on
World
the
champion.
world, yeah, on the world circuit. Haven't heard from them in quite some time, but I was reading an article now, and that's how I found out that Peyo has gone to China. But they're having difficulty finding people to like develop a new national team. So
Mm,
basically, with the success of Bing Yu Wang and the other Chinese teams, the sport still hasn't like developed in China. I don't know at all what this is purely speculation. But I think that's a result of like putting all your resources, all your eggs in one basket. And okay, it's good to develop that one team, but you're not doing anything good for the sport within the country
yeah,
because no resources was put into that.
that's it. And I think that's my big take home message with how a lot of countries are handling this. And I think it comes from a very flawed approach of, well, let's back way up. Like 20, 30 years ago, some of these countries had no experience in curling, right? And for a lot of them, this is a recent investment. And I think what's happened is that a lot of them turn on the TV and watch curling in the Olympics and go, this looks easy.
Oh, yeah. How many times have you heard that, right?
Oh, of course. And it's we can tell you it is not easy. It's you make an occasional shot by fluke, but you're not going to the Olympics easily. It's a
Mhm.
very long, difficult road. And as we said in our last episode, if we wanted to make the Olympics, even though we've been curling for what 20 years each, we would be more likely by changing sports. And
Mhm.
so, anyways, just for them, for these countries that think it looks really easy, I think they learn very quickly that it isn't. But they throw money at a bunch of people, but they're not interested in growing the sport, which
Mhm.
to me is terribly unsustainable.
Well, I think that it's good at the beginning for, like, so for instance, if you take China, for example, it's kinda good at the beginning to get people interested into the sport, right?
Yeah.
'Cause you can't just be like, "Oh, here's a curling club, people come to our open house." People are gonna be like, "What is this?" Right? But if you have a successful team, it kinda gets interest and people are like, "Oh my god, I wanna try it." So you kinda have to start that way, but then kind of phase into
Oh yeah, of course.
developing
And
the
I'd
sport
like
within
to
the
think
country,
that
right?
happened in yeah, I'd like to think that happened in the United States with the U.S. winning gold in the last Olympics. I'd like to think that people just showed up, and I believe they did. There were a lot of people trying curling. Will they stay on with it? I don't know. But what the vibe that I got from my time in Europe when I was meeting all these coaches, because of course all the coaches are Canadian,
Of
and
course.
they're all saying, even though they're coaching, I don't know, like Slovakia versus Croatia, I remember the coaches discussing like, hey, who's winning the Stampeders Rough Riders game? Very very European curling conversation. But anyways, one of the things that they expressed frustration over is that some countries, and I won't mention names, but some countries, they'll invest in a elite team, and like China, like we've been saying, but they're not really interested in ever growing the game. In fact, they don't allow people to try the sport because
What?
they're seeing that as a threat to the elite team that they've designated. They don't want to have them face any competition. They but to
Oh, no, 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 no.
but I don't. Yeah, as a curler, I was gravely offended by that.
That's really sad, though.
Yeah, it's again, it's against the values of the sport, and and I have no
Yeah, well,
problem with like, okay, we'll put some money behind a team, and hopefully they get a lot of notoriety and exposure, and but you have to be willing to allow people. You have to show an interest, at least to me, in having the sport flourish in your country. I know it's easier said than done, but you at least have to tell me for me to buy into this that you want that.
but you know what? I think the countries that do that, they really don't give a care. Like, they don't care about the sport. They're just like, what sports
But
can
that's it.
we
They want to
do
win. They
that will
think
get
they
us
can,
medals?
and
Mhm.
that's unfortunate.
Well, good thing we're not in those countries.
No, so I guess
But it
what it
is sad.
yeah, I guess what it comes down to is like, so we like the way Canada does it, although it could be tweaked eventually. Switzerland,
It
I
will
think, is
be
another one, right? Switzerland, you win the championship and you represent,
I think so. I haven't heard otherwise. And Switzerland too is it's a small country, but they do have quite a
but they've got
few.
depth.
Yeah, yeah. They have quite a few good teams.
Yeah, there was a time a
Um,
couple of years ago where Switzerland had a different women's representative, I think 3 or 4 years in a row, and they won the world championship, all of them. Like
mhm.
Miriam Ott, Binia Felcher, Alina Pate. Who am I forgetting? Oh, and Tirinzoni, and
Turns
like,
on she's one of the newer ones.
yeah,
But yeah, and but also too within Switzerland, it's like the teams kind of people rotate from team to team, so it's quite
yeah,
common to like, oh, so and so played with her 1 year, and then 2 years later is playing with someone else. But one thing is that, and I thought we should talk about this in another episode, is a lot of these smaller countries who that don't have a huge curling presence are actually quite they're dominating on the mixed doubles circuit.
yeah,
Like, if you look at the mixed double world, you see a lot of countries that you don't see in regular, like, men and women's play, and I think for smaller countries, it's a lot easier to invest in 2 people or get, like, a bunch of 2 people duo teams than, a full foursome.
yeah. I think, hey, we might have to make the next episode about mixed doubles.
Yeah, I personally love mixed doubles, and I
I
remember
know.
when mixed doubles just started as a game. I remember a lot of people speaking to some people at the club and they hated it. They were like, "It's not real curling, blah blah blah." And I was like, "Excuse you, but
I might have been one
mixed
of them.
doubles is great."
I
So
might have.
yeah,
I wasn't that harsh, but I have come around on it. I was a bit skeptical at first, but yeah, let's do that.
it's
Let's.
it's completely different. Like it's not it's like yes, it's curling, but it's just a completely different game than the
Yeah,
regular
we'll do that
game.
next week. We'll do that.
All right. So stay tuned for that.
That's right. But yeah, so Switzerland does it the Canadian way, or sort of, and the United States does too. I believe. Like they have a trials, but they're not. But yeah, they're not exempt from controversy either, are they?
Honestly, I have no idea what's going on in the United States because they do have like it's kind of like Canada where you have to win your state or like I think their nationals they have some states may have like a couple slots like Wisconsin might have two teams. But I think whoever the winner is gets to go, but I have heard quite a bit of controversy within the USA competitive circuit, and I wasn't able to find anything, and I don't wanna, like, spread rumors in case, like, what I have isn't, like, 100%
That's
correct.
right. If you win Michigan, you may not have actually won.
Yeah,
That's an
I
election
did.
reference. Demand a recount.
Can we play that game again, please?
Yes.
Uh But it's also surprising too, because the US, there's so many people, there's so much money. It'd be so easy to get sponsorship. The enthusiasm is there. Every Olympic
Yeah.
year, you hear people from all the way down in Arizona, like I don't even know if they know what ice is. It's so hot there. And like
Yeah.
they want to play. Yet it's so like someone's restricting it in the US.
There's something going on there. You're right.
There's
It's
definitely because there's no excuse there's no reason for it to not be bigger than it is. I mean, it's 10 times the population of Canada.
well, that's what I've always found really weird is that how is it that the sport is so popular here and just such an afterthought in the rest of the world? It's
Yeah.
and especially the United States. It's very interesting. Like it makes sense that the northern states are a little bit into it, but even then,
They're not as into it
it's so
as
distant. Yeah, and
yeah.
I'd like to think it's getting better. And at least I know that the states. I mean, I don't know how you get to a national championship in the United States. There must be a way. I've never bothered to look it up. But I know that they have a championship and you win it. And it's in the men's side, it's John Schuster that keeps winning it every year. And they have an Olympic trials. He won. But I did
Mhm.
remember hearing there was a curler, Todd Burr, big name in the
Who?
United States curling from a long time ago. He made it. I actually, this is the only research I did find. So Todd Burr, he represented the States at the Worlds about 10, 15 years ago. He did really well at the Worlds. He won a bronze medal and he finished
Okay.
second in the round robin. So pretty good. And he's still around and he tried to get to the last Olympic trials. And I think he was ranked number like 4 or 5 in the United States. And they handpick, apparently, I could be getting this wrong. Don't sue me, whoever's listening. But they handpick the Olympic representatives in the United States or the Olympic trials
Oh.
teams. All like they pick 8 teams and they pick the top 8 or
Oh.
something. And they left this guy out, even though he was ranked fourth or fifth. And it was really controversial. And
Yeah, I remember
there were
this.
lawsuits involved. And he eventually, apparently, at the last second, did get reinstated. But it's, oh, just the amount of like conflicts of interest and cronyism and just, it's so bad.
That's kind of like what I was alluding to when I've heard things that it's a little there's definitely people involved at the top and they make like it's controlled. It's not
Yeah.
fair game, which is very unfortunate. And you would think to even because the US is so big and there's so much money there, like you would think that they'd have like a couple good competitive teams and not just seeing Schuster come out every year. And even the women's team, there's what, like 2 women's teams that maybe rotate, but
Right. I think they are winning their championship legitimately. What I think the
I
idea is,
think
though,
it's
how do
like
you get to that championship?
but I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
how are there not how, like, in Canada, we have quite a few good men's team?
Oh, like,
Like, we
shouldn't
have
there be more
Gushue,
depth?
Cooey, Jacobs. Like, how is there only one men's team that comes out every year?
Yeah,
Like, we
I'm
should be seeing
sure.
more faces. We'll see what happens. I mean, the Olympics is what, in 2 years? We'll
I
s
hope it is.
if it is. Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
thing too. This might be this whole pandemic might just kill Olympics
yeah,
to come.
it's true. I saw a promo the other day for Tokyo 2020 coming July 2021. I was just thinking,
I don't
imagine if
think it's
you
gonna
spaced
happen.
out. I don't know, yeah, but imagine if you spaced out for like the last 8 months and you see that ad and you're like, Tokyo 2020,
Yeah.
2021.
Wait, hold on. That doesn't hold on. The trials are happening in November. So that would mean that the Olympics are gonna happen
In
in
2022.
2022. Okay.
Yeah, so they're about a
That's like
year and
some
a half
back-to-back
away.
Olympic stuff going on.
Yeah, that'll be pretty quick and back to back.
Yeah. And the winter is in China too, right, I think?
Mhm.
In Beijing. Anyways.
So that gives a lot of time for these countries to listen to what we have to say and completely switch their model according to what we like.
Yeah, they got 2 years to, develop a
Plenty
couple
of time.
teams.
Plenty of
Plenty
time.
of time. 'Cause you all know that you can just put a team together and they'll be, like, that successful.
Uh-huh.
No, it'll be good to see some new faces too, 'cause,
Mhm.
you get old. Like, I mean, Eden's great. I mean, he's gonna go down in history as, one of the best curlers to ever live, but, dude, it's time to retire. I wanna see someone else come out of Sweden.
Hey, we saw him before, or I don't know, like, I don't know if I even knew you back then, but, do you remember when the World Junior Championships were in
In Three
Trois-Rivières?
Rivers!
Yeah,
Yes, I have
and
a
he was there.
picture. Yeah, I
Yeah.
have a picture of him. Well, like, not with him, but, like, of him playing, and I totally didn't well, none of us knew who he was at the time because when it's juniors.
I think he had blue hair. Didn't he dye his hair, like, to look like the Swedish flag?
I don't remember that, no.
Oh, I think he did. There's another
Oh.
thing I'm just throwing out there.
I just
Somebody fact check it.
I know I have to go dig up, my old, pictures because this is before the digital camera existed,
I think it may have been,
I
like,
think, because,
my
like, I
parents'
have
first digital camera.
'cause I'm pretty like, the pictures I took were from a camera from the pharmacy that you had to, like,
Oh
crank
my
and then
god.
go get developed. Yeah,
Those were the days.
high quality stuff. Yeah, like, if someone has the time, I think they really should go back in the internet vault and try and find articles or things that happened before 2018 because it's really hard to find
I could
stuff.
not agree more. I mean, we had this discussion about commercials. The world of today deserves to know of Jim
Mhm.
Strauss commercials and Heart Drops and all of that. And so, yeah, somebody's got to get on that. We need access to the curling archives or better access because
Yeah,
we
because there's
tried
so
to
many things
research. We put in some effort.
but there's so many things that, like, we remember things happening, but we have, that vague memory of things happening, and you're like, "Oh, well, what was the actual situation?" Because you wanna say real things here, and it was really hard to find, and I tried, like, different search terms and going on different countries' national websites, and the last resort was going on, like, Curling Zone, like, the forum they have, but then that was like, "I'm not going down that rabbit hole."
No,
Yeah, so we need a curling library or something.
I agree.
Or at least moving forward is, all this stuff. There's so many more articles getting written about curling gossip and stuff like that. So anyway, so I guess that's it for today's episode.
I guess
Um,
so. Hey, this was a historic episode, Kelly. This is the first one we've done without a reference to Randy Ferbey.
I know, I was trying to like find a way to put
I
Randy
know. All
Ferbey
I
in
could do
there.
was sneak him in at the end, but
You
he'll
know
be back
what?
next week.
Yeah, we'll mention him double time next time. So yeah, catch us next week, guys.
Have a good one.
Bye.